as far as I can tell, there is no religion in the history of religions that was able to do what our scholars did, not because of themselves, in spite of themselves. I really mean that. They couldn't have done it. لو أنفقت ما في الأرض جميعا ما ألفت بين قلوبهم. If you spent the entire world, all the treasures of the world, you couldn't have united these hearts. But Allah united them. Allah united them. This is the only religion that has an agreed upon book. All the madhabs of this religion agree on the book. Even the deviant schools, there's no difference of opinion on the Quran, none. Tajweed, there's no difference of opinion. I mean, that's a miracle. How do you get the same pronunciation? How is that possible? How do you get 17 points of articulation? How is that possible? How is it possible that we know all the attributes of the letters? How is that possible? You can't get Jews to agree on how Hebrew is pronounced. You can't get Christians to agree on how Greek New Testament is pronounced. I had Greek for 2 years. My New Testament Greek teacher said, we don't know how this letter, we think it sounded like this, maybe it sounded like that. How is it? When you hear an Indonesian Quran reciter or a Moroccan Quran reciter, if they're pronouncing it according to the ahkam of tajweed, complete different ends of the earth, they pronounce it the same way. They might have different way of pronouncing it, the tune, that's not a good word, but the melody, you know, the way that they recite it. The maqam, it would be called a maqam. But no other religion has that. Now, how did they agree on these madhabs? I don't know how they did it. As far as I can tell, it's a miracle. There were no councils. I mean, the Christians had to have count. They actually bumped people off on these councils. They poisoned people. You read the Christian history. People were poisoned. Like bishops that disagreed with it. They just said, it's for a good cause. It's for the unity of the religion. But they did it. They bumped people off. You had Arianism. You had Malachite Christianity. You had all these competing. They had over 30 Gospels at the Council of Nicaea, which was here in Turkey. Over 30 Gospels. You know how they decided? They put it on a table, and in the morning they came in, there were only 4 on the table. But who had the key to the room? So they agreed on these 4 Gospels, but there were other Gospels. They had to have councils. They had several councils. The Council of the Chaldean Council, the Council of Nicaea. They had the different creeds, the Alexandrian Creed, right? Became the dominant creed. Why? Because he was more powerful than Arian. Arian almost won the day. They voted about these things. They literally had votes like they do now with the magisterium. Muslims never had any of this. You can't prove anywhere in the history of Islam. They had one council where they got together and said, what madhabs should we accept as valid madhabs? How did they agree on 4 madhabs? And then, how did they agree on the mashhur? If you're a Maliki, you study Ibn al-Qasim. Malik had hundreds of students. Why did they all agree on one student? Tell me, why? How'd they do it? They didn't kill anybody. They didn't kill the followers of Ibn Majishun. They didn't kill the followers of Ibn Wahbin. They didn't kill the followers of Muhammad ibn al-Utbi or Sidi al-Mawaz. Those books are there, Al-Wadiha, Ibn al-Habib, the Mawaziyah, the Utbiyah. You have what are called the Ummahat of the... Why is it the Mudawwana? They didn't have any councils because the Isnad was, according to them, that was the strongest Isnad. He was the one that spent the most time with Malik. He was the one that Asad ibn al-Furat, who was one of the greatest students of Malik, he looked at his book, and then Sahnun codified it, and then it became taught all over the Muslim world. How is that possible? It's amazing. So now this whole call to get rid of these madhabs, after they were literally, the only way to explain them is that God had his direct involvement. That's the only way to explain it. And that you could go, Ibn Battuta, a Maliki, could travel the whole Muslim world. He ended up a qadi in Sri Lanka. I mean, how's that possible? How could you have, before technology, before mass communication, everybody was studying the same books. How is that possible? How is it possible that everybody agreed on the Tahawiyya. Tell me, I want to know, how is that possible? No government said you have to follow the Tahawiyya. When they went to Malik, Mansur, he said, we want to make the Muwatta the official book of Islam. Don't make it the official book of Islam. After the Quran, he said the Sahaba spread out in the Ummah. Don't force. That became the standard. No empire ever forced people. The Ottomans respected the other madhabs. They could have wiped the madhabs out and made Hanafi the only madhab. They could have wiped the aqaid out. Even the Ash'aris that became the dominant aqidah under the Seljuks, they didn't wipe the Athariyin out. They didn't wipe them out. They stayed. They're still here. They still have their asanid. Their books are still taught. It's a miracle of this religion. And so throwing this away, that's what he's saying. Be careful. Learn what, before you start questioning these people, before you start, learn. Because these things were not arrived at fortuitously. There's providential care in the preservation of this religion. There is providential care. The miracle of Arabic grammar is a miracle. The Europeans don't have an English dictionary until the 18th century. There is no dictionary. We don't have a dictionary from Shakespeare's time. The Muslims had dictionaries in the first 100 years. But the words were preserved orally. They went around, this great Al-Asma'i, this is a genius Arab. He spent his entire life going to the Arab tribes. What does this word mean? When you say this, what do you mean by this? And he wrote everything down. It's a miracle. Who inspired them? Who inspired them to do that? To find out, because they wanted to preserve this religion, preserve every meaning of these words. This is an amazing thing. And we should have more himmah to try to learn these things. Really. Look at what they did with their life. They expended their life and energy for the preservation of this knowledge. And here we have it. It's all there. And everybody's playing Nintendo. My God. What an ungrateful lot we are. Really. Unbelievable.